Mark Carney is Canada's Prime Minister, the first new Prime Minister, in fact, that we've had in 9 years. Now, Carney has taken over the responsibility of steering Canada through a trade war with the United States. And in short order, Carney will also lead the Liberal Party through a federal election that will be held at some point this year. Let's bring in Cameron Ahmad then, former Liberal staffer, communications director, in fact, for the now former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Cameron, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Carney's kicked off his stint. First he reduced the carbon tax to zero, but then today he's headed to Europe to meet with his French and British counterparts. And the plan, as we understand it at this stage, is to discuss trade, but also defense. What do you make of this? How do you view this as his first step?
I think it's a smart first step. We saw with the formation of a new cabinet, a very small, lean cabinet, focused, I think, squarely on the number one challenge that Canada faces, and probably the only thing that's going to be discussed in the lead up to the election, which is our relations with the United States and the threats we're facing from Donald Trump. So sending a signal very early on that he is going to be have a different style as Prime Minister, but really focused immediately on that threat. And by traveling to Europe right away, demonstrating that he's going to work to shore up our alliances with other really important countries, and of course the two most important European countries in our historical relationships, and demonstrate to Canadians that he's ready to take that on and that he can show international credibility, competence in governing, and be ready for this threat that's already underway.
Do you think Carney is well equipped to tackle Donald Trump? We've seen various world leaders try and respond to Trump's threats of tariffs in various different ways. Some have been more compliant and some have been more defiant. And we've seen Trump doesn't seem to respond well to defiance. How do you think Carney is going to tackle this?
Well, I think it's fair to say he doesn't really respond well to any approach from any leader in the world, because it's all driven by his desire to impose tariffs or to really whatever his agenda is at the time. I think what we saw with Prime Minister Trudeau, especially in the first term, was a really smart strategy in dealing with the White House, and ultimately one that worked for Canada. But the second Trump White House is different, and their approach is different. It's more aggressive. So I think Carney is well equipped because, A, he has almost unimpeachable credentials on the economy, and he has steered major economies through crisis before. And two, because he's credible on the international stage. So he's meeting with these leaders of other countries, doesn't even need an introduction. They already know who he is. And again, he is going to be using these first few days in office to demonstrate that he has his eye on the ball. He knows exactly what the priority is for the country. And frankly, that's the only thing that Canadians really care about right now, which is how can Canada stay strong? How can Canada shore up its alliances with other countries? And how can we steer ourselves through this difficult time? And I think there's no pretending that it's going to be not going to be a difficult time. I mean, everyone understands that, but this is the right move to work with others who are also facing similar threats and try and bring our alliances closer.
It is challenging for Mark Carney to be doing this with a long-term view, knowing that it's only a matter of time before we are in a full-blown federal election. And the timing of it, I suppose, matters not now, because the Liberals have recovered a lot of lost ground in the polls. What have you made of this bump the Liberals are enjoying, in part due to Donald Trump? And also, do you think it'll sustain? Do you think the timing of this election will be important?
Yes, the timing is important, of course. My assumption is that it's going to happen soon. It's going to be called in a matter of weeks at most. But of course, things are changing so quickly these days, so probably not very valuable to make assumptions. What do I make of the polling? Honestly, it's that we probably shouldn't spend too much time looking at the day-to-day horse race polling, because it can change so quickly. I think the message that Liberals felt in their convention last weekend was that they're competitive again, and the outcome is not guaranteed anymore. I mean, it was looking like it was going to be a pretty easy path to a majority for the Conservatives, and that's not the case anymore. I think Canadians were expecting change and were hoping for change from the government, but also not necessarily ready for the country to go in a rightward shift and follow many of the same at least style, tactics, and behaviors of the right wing in the United States. So right now there is a sort of clean slate for the government, but again, only one big issue that's going to drive the conversation. And I think Mark Carney, with his background, his experience, and his positioning at this early stage of his government, is well equipped to take on this issue and to present a very clear contrast to the Conservatives.
And I suppose, we've had a preview from the Conservatives during that very short Liberal leadership contest of how they plan to position themselves against Mark Carney. But, a carbon tax Carney has now done away with the carbon tax. So how do you expect Pierre Poilievre to shift gears, if at all? What do you think their approach will be?
I think it's going to be an aggressive approach, and they're going to spend a lot of money on negative advertising to try and attack his character and attack his motives. I mean, they've already been doing that. They didn't even take, I think, 10 minutes to say, congratulations to the new government. Let's work together. This is a time where Canadians are coming together and rallying in the interest of our economy and our future. They went straight away to the attack. So I'm not sure exactly what attack they will choose as most effective because, as you mentioned, their number one criticism has been sort of clipped from them after spending years undermining and frankly, not telling the truth about the carbon tax. It's now gone. So they have to find something else to criticize him on. And if they don't talk about the economy and they don't talk about, I think, the Canada-US relationship and what their approach to that would be, then they're probably missing the mark because, whomever is going to be elected will likely be the person who is able to best articulate a vision for the future of how to defend Canada's sovereignty and how to steer us through this crisis. And so far, I think what they've struggled with is that issue. They've been focusing on other things, and they've not found, I think, a clear way to express their view, their position on Canada-US relations that's any different from what the government has.
All right, while we have you, Cameron, I do want to get your take. You were with Justin Trudeau for most of his time as Prime Minister, and you've seen him through a number of scandals. No doubt you've helped him navigate through them. Can we expect Prime Minister Carney, a former central banker twice over, can we expect him to be relatively scandal-free? How do you think, a Prime Minister Carney will be like for the Liberals?
I think, first of all, I think Prime Minister Trudeau also has an incredible legacy of building a stronger and fairer country for Canadians over his 9 years in office. I think Prime Minister Carney is going to try and, like we said, show a bit of change in approach because Canadians wanted some change after this period. But I think the way he's positioning himself is as a competent and stable economic manager who's really just focused on the big thing right now. So it's hard to predict. It's impossible to predict the future. And again, the Conservatives will spend a lot of time attacking him. But I think he is well equipped because he's been on the international stage before. He has been in the public eye before. He has handled tough questions and he has handled crises. So he comes to this role at this time of great threat and concern for Canadians in a time of crisis. But with that experience of knowing how to navigate through it. And what we also saw is a very united team behind him. I mean, his election as leader was resoundingly strong, more so than most people expected. So I think with that united team, with his background and his competence and the way he's positioning himself right now, I think he's going to steer clear of any type of distraction and really focus on the economy and trade.
All right, a few crucial months coming up there for Mark Carney. Cameron, we leave it there. That's Cameron Ahmad, former Liberal Party staffer. Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you so much.